A woman arrives at her house, and at that moment she realizes that she had won the lottery. She gets very excited about this and then shows her husband that they were now rich. She then begins to plan what she was going to do with this money, and when she went to talk to her husband, she realizes that he was no longer there. Meanwhile, the other woman gets very excited about the money. The woman then walks up to the man who was in her car. She starts banging on the car window and asks him to get out of there. The man then rolls down the window of the car and asks her what she wanted. She asks what he was doing there, and he says she was talking too loudly. At that point, the woman asks the man why he left and says that he couldn't keep her note. The man says that he wouldn't keep the woman's lottery ticket and that she doesn't need to worry, but she gets very worried about that and goes to his car engine. She fiddles with something and the man asks her what she had done. She said she wouldn't allow him to take away her lottery ticket. He says that the truth was that the note was from him, but the woman says that she had received that note as a gift from the man. She says that this was the only gift the man had given her, because he would sit in his armchair all day, but the man says that was unfair, because she knew that his armchair was very comfortable. She then tells the man that she didn't want to take him out of his car by force, but the man says he didn't care about that and rolls up the windows of the car. The woman then starts banging on the windows of the car and asks the man to get out of there, but he didn't care about that and stayed in the car. She then said she couldn't believe he was doing that and then grabbed something to hit the glass harder. When he sees what she was trying to do, the man tells her not to hurt his car, but the woman said it was just a car. The man then tells his car that he didn't need to worry as he wasn't going to let the woman hurt him. She then tells the man to get out of there, but the man told her she was crazy. She said she wasn't crazy and that she wouldn't let the man take her money away. He then told her that if she didn't leave, he would call the police, but she asked him not to call the police. He then took out his phone and called the police, saying his girlfriend was threatening him, saying she was going to hit him. The woman said this was a lie, but the man proceeds to tell the officer that she was beating him and that he badly needed help. The woman is furious about this, and then the man says that soon the cops would be coming and that they would arrest the woman, because she was crazy. At this point, they realize that the police were already arriving and the woman is very apprehensive. The officers then go to the woman and compliment her. She said she was glad they were there and said she needed them to get her boyfriend out of the car. The officer asked the woman if she had a gun, but she said no and that she didn't have a gun. They then ask if the woman had hurt her boyfriend and the man says yes. The officer asks if the man was okay, but the woman said that the victim there was her, as the man had stolen her lottery ticket. The officer then asks the man to get out of the car so they can talk. The man said he wasn't going to leave because he was afraid of his girlfriend, but the officer said he didn't have to worry because nothing bad was going to happen to him while she was there. The man said they didn't know his girlfriend and that she was very angry with him, but the officer said she was too strong. The policeman agrees by saying that the policewoman really was very strong. He then asks the policewoman to demonstrate her strength, and then she said she would demonstrate to them how strong she was. Meanwhile, the other woman was approaching the scene, and then the officer asks what the woman would do if someone got too close to her. She tells him she should do what she did and then attacks the cop. At that moment, the woman realizes that the other woman was there, asked her what she was doing there. She is furious with the man and tells him to get out of the car. The man then tells the officers that it happened all the time, and he says that the woman was crazy and that she could end up hitting him. The officer says he understands the man's motive and says that was why he wanted to leave his mother's house. The officer says the officer was too fat, but he said he was just too strong. At that moment, the other woman was leaving, but the woman tells her to stay there as they were going to talk later. The man then says that he was a very funny person and that the cops knew what people said about the funny ones. He said he was very nice to people. The officer then tells them not to force them, and the officer says that he didn't want to be forced to do that either. At this point, the other woman says something to the woman, and then she says that since the man was afraid to get out of the car, the officers could arrest the woman and take her to the police station. She says that way they would solve that situation. The man then says that he agreed with what the woman was saying. He said that if she was arrested, he would get out of that car. The officer then walks up to the woman and handcuffs her arms. Seeing that the woman was handcuffed, the man gets out of his car. At that moment, the other woman goes to him and hugs him, which causes the woman to go to the man and hold him so that he doesn't leave. Later, at the police station, the officer was saying that he already understood what was happening there. He said that since the man had bought the ticket as a gift for the woman, he was the owner of the ticket, but the officer says she didn't agree with that. She says that the man had given the note as a gift to the woman and that he no longer had the right to say that the note was his, but the policeman says that the man had paid for the ticket, so he was the owner of the ticket. The officer says that it was the woman who had chosen the ticket numbers and that she was the owner of the ticket, but the officer says that it was the man who bought the ticket. The officer then asks the officer if a woman asked him to buy some onions, whose onion it was. The policeman says that he was already tired of it and says that he had eaten the onion because he was very hungry. She says that the onions were hers, but the policeman says that he was the one who had bought them and that he was very hungry and that he couldn't take it anymore. At that point, the woman tells them that they should focus on her problem, and then the officer says that she was right. She says the only way she could think of to settle the matter was to flip a coin. She said she would let the coin decide who would get the ticket, and when she tossed the coin, she said it was the woman who had won. They get very excited about it, and then the cop says something wasn't right. He realizes that the coin had the same side on both sides and that the policewoman had cheated. He then says that they would have to take that matter to a judge, so that he can decide who would get that ticket. He then goes to the man to get the note from him, but he realizes that the man no longer has the note. The other woman then asks how the man managed to lose her note, but she soon says that the note belonged to the woman. The man then says that the note was in his car and he tells the woman to move away from him so he can pick it up, but she says that they would go together. Later, the man ends up hiding the note in his pocket and doesn't tell anyone. The woman then tells him that he was useless, as he ended up losing the only opportunity she had to get out of that miserable life. He then says that since she didn't like that life, he was going to be giving her a way out. He says that he was the one who would leave. He then tells the other woman to leave with him and she says she will go with him. The officer then says that with that, the matter was closed, but the woman said that she did not understand how the cars worked. She says that at that point she hadn't done anything with his car and that she didn't know what he had gone to do to the engine. She then realizes that the man has a note and goes after him. She then ends up finding the note that was with the man and says that now she was very happy as she finally had a lot of money. She starts celebrating, and in the meantime, the officer goes up to the man and tells him that he was under arrest. He said he didn't understand what was happening and asked why the officer was arresting him. But she tells him that he should be quiet, that they could celebrate later. The woman continued to celebrate that she now had a lot of money and that she was no longer together with her husband and that she could do whatever she wanted. At this point, the other woman ends up holding the note too tightly, which causes the note to tear. The woman then becomes furious about it and asks why the other woman did this with her note. The other woman says she didn't mean to do that and then leaves. The woman begins to cry and lament that her opportunity to be rich is gone.